Hi, this is Jeff from the Ozark Mountains, that's in Missouri, in the USA. Today we're on the second part of our Commodore 64 donation series, where we're fixing up a Commodore 64 system for a young man with some special circumstances. Today we're looking at this Commodore C2N dataset, which is also known as the 1530. These weren't as popular in the United States as other places in the world, but I still think it's kind of an essential thing for a vintage computer enthusiast. Now, this is pretty much functional, but the belts are pretty tired. But a fellow named Ron Postgate shipped these all the way over here from the UK, so we have a new set of belts to go in this guy. Well, let's jump right in and get this thing cleaned up and get some new belts on it. These are not too difficult to take apart. There's just 4 screws here on the backhand side. That screwdriver is not fitting the best. That one is just a little better. And we'll carefully tip this guy over. And all of these are the same size, thankfully. So we don't have to worry about keeping them separate. Pop off the cover here. Here is our label for all of you label fanboys. You can see the inside of the bottom is pretty plain. And here are the workings. Some folks are confused by this internal connector here, which is just like what you would plug this one into on the Commodore 64. And my suspicion is this was used for a test fixture to test out the circuit board before it was assembled into the tape drive, or maybe as a fixture to test the whole tape drive before it was put in the case. Something like that. And once we've got that done, we can just lift that out of the top half. There's the inside of the top half. And right here's the belts we need to get to. I think before we start with the belt though, we'll go ahead and wash up the top and bottom half. That way they have some time to dry while we're working on our belts. Here we are in my ultra luxurious and super large downstairs bathroom, which is the closest one to my little workshop. And we've got all the tools that we need in here. We've got some soap, a little scrubbing brush, Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, which is also known as a melamine sponge, and of course, our covers. Let's jump right in. Get everything a little bit wet. This is just dish soap or washing up liquid, as I think they say in the UK, mixed with some water. I find it works good for things like this. And an old toothbrush for getting in the cracks and crevices. Give it a bit of a rinse, and it's looking pretty good. There's a few little scuffs on here that didn't come up with the soap and water, so we'll take our magic eraser here, get it a little wet, and we'll just give those a scrub. It brings those spots right up. Check all the nooks and crannies, and that looks pretty good. So now we'll move on to the bottom half. Okay, give that a rinse. Okay, again we've got a few little scuff marks here. That is looking pretty spiffy. Okay. Now I will go blow the water off of these pieces with the air compressor, and we'll leave them set aside to dry while we turn our attention to replacing those belts and cleaning the head. Okay, so here is our mechanism. I've got a Q-tip that's just got a little mild cleaner on it. I'm going to go around in here and get any of this schmaltz out. There's not too much, but while we've got it open, we might as well get it out of there. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now to get this drive belt off, I want to take this screw out. And take this screw loose. Just kind of like that. We don't have to take it all the way out of there. And then we'll slip our belt out of there very carefully. Sneak it around, and then this little hooky part right here has an opening in it just to slip the belt out of. How convenient is that? Here is the replacement belts. And the longer one is, the longer one's the drive belt, the shorter one is for the tape counter. And these are not round belts, they are square, so we just want to make sure that we don't get any twist in them. And you can kind of just walk it on here. Ignore the man struggling on camera getting this belt wrapped around this pulley. There we go. Okay, we have a twist in it, of course. That looks like we got the twist out of it too. Yes, okay, we are okay. So, I'll tighten that guy up just to squeeze. This screw has a special stepped washer on it that goes in this slot here. This thing here actually moves. Okay. Yeah, there we go. That looks really nice. Tighten up our second screw. Okay, now we'll turn our attention to the tape counter belt, which is actually the easy one. I see a lot of people skip this one, but it's the easiest, so no reason to skip it. There we go. I got the twist out of that one, and I'll use that same Q-tip that just has a little cleaner on it to get the schmaltz off here, but not the little bit of lubrication that's on there, just the dirt. Go ahead and get these keys here while we're at it. Get in between them. Guess that's like flossing, isn't it? I want to clean the capstan roller here with just this little rubber wheel. And I've got just some more mild cleaner on here. No need for anything harsh. Let's see if we can do it this way. That's all the schmaltz off of the pinch roller. Now, one last bit of cleaning. Get yet another Q-tip and a little alcohol. We're going to get the read and write and erase heads here. Just a nice gentle wipe over them. There we go. Now, one final thing I like doing is cleaning the cord. It's nothing worse than a grungy cord on something. I just have some mild cleaner in the spray bottle. And has got some type of sticky stuff on it. Yep, it's covered in sticky goo. Try a little alcohol in there, guy. Yeah, that got rid of our goo problem. There's nothing like picking something up and having a grungy cord on it. Now our cord is much better. It feels better. It's not all sticky and grungy, and it looks just about like new. Now, you'll notice that these data sets have this ground lead. This is a throwback to the old pets, which required this. And we don't want this flopping around and poking into our Commodore 64. And I don't want to just cut it off here because it's original and that just doesn't seem right. So I'll take a couple zip ties and zip tie this to the cord like that. And that way it'll still be there, even though it's not really doing anything. After washing up the Dataset covers and blowing them off with the air compressor, I let them set overnight to make sure they were completely dry. And then I wiped them down with some of this 303 protectant. I use this on my truck bed roll-up bed cover. It's what the manufacturer of it recommended, and it works really good out in the elements and everything. It helps protect the cover, and so I like using it on plastic stuff like this to help protect it and help keep it from yellowing in the future. So let's get this data set put back together, and then we'll try it out. Okay, so I guess we will get our top cover, set our workings down in here like that. It just kind of pops right in there. No big deal. And we will route our wiring out here. If we can convince the grommet to stay in place, there we go. And make sure we get all the wiring tucked in there so we don't pinch it when we put the top cover on, or the bottom cover, I guess. Make sure that those wires are away from that. Excuse me if I get my head in the way of the shot. There we go. And all 4 screws are the same. Just drop them down in there where they live. And remember, when starting screws in plastic, you want to go counterclockwise till you hear it pop, and you'll feel it kind of drop down into the existing threads. Then go clockwise. So counterclockwise or anti-clockwise if you're British, and then clockwise. Well, we've got it back together. How about that? Wasn't that easy? This really cleaned up nicely. This is just a random one that looked okay that I pulled out of my stash. And it's done quite a good job. Alright, everything goes in and out. We'll take this over to the Commodore 64 and try it out. Got our freshly refurbished data set hooked up to my Commodore 64 here. And I went through the various tapes I had. A lot of these games are from the, well, actually I guess all the games are from the UK. So they're designed for PAL machines, and not all of them will actually run right on an NTSC machine, but I did find Impossible Mission 2 did. So we'll try loading that in and see what happens. I've already fast forwarded and rewound this tape. When the tapes have sat around for a long time, they can get kind of sticky in the cassette, so you just fast forward them, rewind them, they'll loosen the tape back up, the tension will be correct. Now I'm going to type in load, or you can hit shift and run stop. Ask me to press play on the tape, and then we wait. It's That's one thing you learn when using a tape drive on any computer, is that they are very, very slow, so you wait a lot. People complain about how slow the disk drives are on the Commodore 64, but they are quite speedy compared to cassettes. I remember in high school, one of my classmates would bring in Frogger on cassette, and we had about enough time after school to wait for it to load and play a few games before we had to get on the late bus. That's how long it took. Press space to tell it to load that first program it found, and now we'll wait 5 or 10 minutes for it to load. Since tape loading was so slow, a lot of companies would first load in a tape fast loader, and when you type run, and now it's loading in the rest of the program in a faster manner than it would have been able to with the stock Commodore loader. And they'll flash the screen and do something like this while it's loading. And again, we wait. And we wait. Oh, it's doing something. All right. Oh. This 64C being one of the newer SIDs, the speech isn't as loud on it. And now we'll wait some more for it to load the first level. And we're still waiting. Now, a lot of folks that are used to using a tape drive know all about the azimuth adjustment, which is what this little hole is here for. And it adjusts how far up and down the tape head is. Now, it actually has a fixed adjustment specification it should be at. The problem is that a lot of tapes were of questionable manufacture, and they were produced on machines that were out of alignment. So if you tried to load them on a cassette deck that was in alignment, it wouldn't work, and you had to fiddle with the azimuth to get it to work. Now, this deck is in alignment. I'm not going to mess with it. It's loading these tapes just fine. These are all, decent quality, commercially produced tapes. They're not copies of copies of copies. So we're just going to leave that alone. There are some programs that you can find and download, and it'll look at the data coming off the cassette and display some lines on the screen, and you can adjust the azimuth looking at that. So if you have some difficult tapes to load, that can help out. And we are still waiting. Well, think about the tape drive in comparison to a paper tape or having to hand key in every program you're going to run. So even back in the day, the tape deck was an advance over the preceding technology. Here we go. Oh, it's locked. And I did something and I don't know how to get out. I died. Okay, well, our Dataset works. The new belts did the trick. And we know we can load. Now we need to check out saving and then loading again to make sure the erase head and the write circuitry is okay. So let's do that now. Okay, I've got a generic tape in here. I've already loaded and saved a few things on here, but I've got it back at the beginning and fast forwarded so it's just past the blank leader. Now let's type in a little program, something very exciting like print Hey Birt. Does it work? Hey, that works. That's amazing. All right. Now we'll save this as Hey. Record and play. interesting thing about the Commodore cassette routines that's built into the ROM is that it'll actually save each program twice on the tape. So if there's a problem with the first copy, it'll keep going until it hits the second copy and try to load that. So it's kind of like you have a built-in backup. Hey, all right, we saved Hey. So now we'll rewind and then go. No, I'm going to go ahead. There. Okay. Well, just before where I saved it. So we clear our memory here. Type in load. Press play. We'll see if it finds our little program. Now, when it's saving, it's going to erase the tape before it's recording to the tape, so we're able to test both of those functions. Hey, it found it. All right, press the space bar to tell it to go ahead and load it, and it did. And we'll run it, and it says Hey Birt. So, you know, our cassette deck is working fine. This is another great thing to donate to a worthy cause. Well, this is a fun project, refurbishing this stuff to give to this young man. And thanks to everyone for donating things, and thanks to Ron in the UK for donating the belts for this data set. It cleaned up pretty nice for just a random one I pulled out of my stash of stuff, and it is working quite well. So I hope the young man that's getting this will have fun with it. It's certainly interesting to play with and compare it to more modern technology like floppy disk. Well, I think in the next episode we're going to get to the Commodore 64 and refurbish that. So stay tuned, and until next time, bye.